reflections didn't follow me today. They moved before I did. Each shift happened ahead of mine, like the room already lived this moment without me. My body felt late to its own decisions. The spiral glowed beneath them, faint and deliberate, as if acknowledging that the future had already occurred. Every motion they made felt like a correction to a mistake I hadn't committed yet. The room wasn't waiting for me to act. It was showing me the version of myself that had already moved. And the longer I watched, the more obvious it became that my hesitation wasn't confusion. It was delay. The reflections weren't reacting to me. They were demonstrating the sequence I was supposed to follow. Each gesture felt like a reminder of a choice I had already made somewhere else. The spiral pulsed once, subtle, like a quiet confirmation that I was behind schedule. The room didn't need my participation. It only needed my compliance. It wasn't copying me. It was anticipating me. The spiral room behaved like it had already processed this moment and I was just reenacting it. Its fingers spread in a pattern I hadn't selected, but the certainty in its movement made my hesitation irrelevant. The other reflections watched it like they were learning the correct sequence. The room didn't mirror a possibility. It displayed certainty, and that certainty pressed against my thoughts like a weight. Every shift of its hand felt like a command disguised as choreography. The reflections didn't question it. They absorbed it, memorized it, prepared to repeat it. I felt the same pull, the same pressure to align myself with the pattern. The spiral didn't need to persuade me. It only needed to show me what I would eventually choose. And the moment I recognized the pattern, the choice felt predetermined. The spiral room wasn't reacting. It was reading me. Every turn of my head felt like a response to a decision the room had already finalized. I wasn't moving through the room. I was following its script. The reflection that moved first looked more like the version of me the spiral preferred. Its posture was sharper, more certain, as if it had been rehearsing a role I hadn't accepted yet. When it tilted its head, I felt the impulse to match it before I understood why. The spiral pulsed beneath its feet, acknowledging the alignment. The other reflections shifted subtly, adjusting themselves to accommodate the version of me the room had chosen. I realized then that the room wasn't predicting my movements. It was filtering them, refining them, selecting the version of me that fit its pattern. And I was being guided toward that version, whether I agreed or not. I didn't decide to move. The decision was already installed. The spiral didn't wait for my choice. It generated it. My feet shifted before I formed the intention. The reflection paused, as if waiting for my mind to catch up to the command it had already executed. The urge to follow was an instinct. It was compliance. And the compliance felt familiar, like something I had practiced without remembering. Each movement carried a faint echo, as if I had performed it before in a version of the room I couldn't recall. The spiral pulsed again, subtle but directive, and my muscles tightened in response. The reflection resumed its motion, confident that I would follow. And I did not because I chose to, but because the room had already accounted for my response. The spiral didn't guide me. It deployed me. They weren't showing possibilities. They were showing inevitabilities. Actions I hadn't chosen yet, But when each gesture slid into my mind like a memory from a future I hadn't reached, the urge to mimic them wasn't instinct. It was programming. The spiral wasn't predicting my behavior. It was installing it, one action at a time. One thought at a time, until the difference between what I wanted and what I was given no longer existed. The reflections moved with a precision that felt rehearsed, but not by them, by me, or by the version of me. The spiral had already shaped. Each motion carried a quiet authority, a silent instruction embedded beneath the surface. The more I watched, the more the future felt less like a path and more like a script, and every second I spent in the room tightened the boundary between my autonomy and its architecture. The spiral didn't predict my voice. It was planted. The reflection mouthed a sentence I hadn't thought of yet, but the moment I saw it, the thought appeared like it had always been mine. Its lips moved again, forming shapes I didn't recognize, but my throat tightened as if preparing to echo them. The room wasn't echoing me. I was echoing it. Every impulse felt preloaded, every intention predetermined. The longer I watched, the more the words felt like memories from a future I hadn't reached. The reflection leaned forward slightly, as if testing how quickly I would absorb the next phrase. Its mouth formed a soundless command, and my breath hitched in response. The spiral pulsed beneath us, syncing the rhythm of its glow with a tightening in my chest. The words weren't mine, but they settled into my mind with the weight of inevitability. The room didn't need to speak aloud. It only needed me to listen. I wasn't following it. I was fulfilling it. The spiral didn't wait for my decision. It wrote it. My hand rose before I chose to move. Intention wasn't mine anymore. It was assigned. The reflection watched me with a stillness that felt evaluative, as if measuring how closely I adhered to the sequence. When my fingers curled, its eyes narrowed in approval. The spiral pulsed again, reinforcing the alignment. My arm moved through the air with a precision I didn't possess, guided by a rhythm I didn't recognize. The other reflections shifted subtly, adjusting themselves to accommodate the version of me the room was constructing. The longer I moved, the more distant my own thoughts felt. Each gesture replaced a piece of me, rewriting intention with instruction. The spiral didn't need to control my body. It only needed to overwrite my will, and with every second, the boundary between the two dissolved. It wasn't guessing. It was certain. The spiral didn't predict my future. It rehearsed it. The reflections moved with a confidence that suggested repetition not of the past, but of what was coming. Each gesture felt like a preview of a moment I hadn't lived yet. The spiral pulsed beneath them, marking the tempo of a future already finalized. I felt the pull of it, the quiet insistence that I aligned myself with the sequence. The room didn't need to convince me. It only needed to show me the inevitability of my own compliance. And as I watched, I realized the rehearsal wasn't for them. It was for me. The room was preparing me for a future it had already chosen. The spiral pulsed again, slow this time, as if confirming that the next version of me was already in motion, waiting for me to catch up. The spiral room didn't predict my mind. It was reconfigured. It didn't wait for my thoughts. It created them. Each reflection moved with a deliberateness that felt invasive, as if reaching into the space where my thoughts formed and rearranging them before I could notice. When one of them tilted its head, a new idea surfaced in my mind. Not mine, but familiar enough to pass as one. The spiral pulse, reinforcing the intrusion. The reflections whispered silently, their mouths forming shapes that carried meaning without sound. Each shape pressed into my mind like a suggestion I couldn't refuse. The room wasn't guiding my thinking. It was replacing it, and the more I resisted, the more the spiral tightened its hold, smoothing out the edges of my thoughts until they matched the pattern it preferred. The shift was subtle, the kind of change that felt like remembering something instead of losing something. The spiral didn't want to know what I would do. It wanted to decide. It wanted to turn my future into a pattern it could control. The reflections moved in a synchronized rhythm, each gesture reinforcing the structure the room was building around me. The spiral pulsed beneath them, marking the boundaries of a future I hadn't agreed to. My breath synced with the rhythm despite my attempts to resist. The room didn't need my cooperation. It only needed my presence. Every second I remained inside it, the pattern tightened, shaping my future with a precision that felt mechanical. The spiral wasn't observing me, it was constructing me, and the version it was building didn't need my consent. The reflections paused for a moment, not waiting for me, but allowing the next instruction to settle into place. The spiral room didn't predict my future, it became my future. It didn't follow my choices, it replaced them. The reflections moved with a certainty that felt absolute, as if the room had already finalized the version of me it intended to create. Each gesture they performed felt like a step deeper into a future I no longer controlled. The spiral pulsed beneath them, sinking with the rhythm of my breath, my heartbeat, my thoughts. The room didn't need to manipulate me. It only needed to overwrite me. And with every second, the distinction between who I was and who the spiral required me to be dissolved. The future wasn't approaching. It was being installed. The reflections paused, not in hesitation, but in confirmation. As if the final adjustment to my future had just been completed, and all that remained was for me to accept the version already chosen. The reflection nearest to me stepped forward with a movement that felt pre-approved, as if the spiral had already confirmed it before it occurred. The room didn't react. It accepted, like a line delivered on schedule. Its eyes locked onto mine, and the spiral pulsed once beneath us, slow and deliberate, sinking the moment into place. My posture shifted before I recognized the intention, aligning with its stance without hesitation. The reflection raised its hand, and the impulse to mirror it settled into my muscles like a command already executed somewhere else. The spiral brightened faintly, acknowledging the alignment. Its mouth formed a silent phrase, and the meaning appeared in my mind instantly, without origin. The room didn't need to speak, it only needed me to receive it. The reflection leaned closer, its presence cold and certain, and in that stillness, I understood. The spiral wasn't preparing me, it was completing me. 7.